coming to you live. Sorry, I forgot to hit the camera. I'm not sure what happened there, but normally I'm pretty good. I've been good lately. Hey, this is Andy over the Andy Falco Show, coming to you live from California. And man, I'm just on two. I'm here watching the news, and two stories right in a row just kicked my butt. First of all, you got Chaz Chopistan up there in Seattle, which you have business owners that are on and just saying, "What the hell? We can't run a business." We were out, because of COVID-19, and then we had rioting where they broke the windows, and the city did nothing to protect us from the people that were coming from out of the city, destroying our businesses. And now we have this Chaz Chopistan coming in here, and we can't get the police won't respond when we call them. And it's just like it's just crazy. The other thing that I'm going to tell you right now, and I was going to save this. Let me get to the sponsors. I always do this. Really quick. I got to talk about two sponsors essentially, which is today's happycoffee.com. Please go to that website, click on there, get some coffee. It's fantastic. It has added ingredients that help you with your dopamine and all the things that make you happy, endorphins and all the such. It also has helped people lose weight. I think I've lost about 5 pounds since I've been drinking the coffee for the last 3 weeks, which is fantastic. I can't tell you that you're going to exactly have the same results as I'm having and the dozens of other people that have had testimonials regarding the Happy Coffee, but they're losing weight. People are having a great time with the coffee, and it's good. And I've enjoyed it. And also I sleep even better. I've slept good since I've been using today's CBD oil, right? The CBD oil from Viseo.com, which is one of the top 50 healthcare companies in the world, with a ingredient called liposome technology, which helps the nutrients get into your body. Been taking this for about 2 years. So I've been sleeping good, but now I have today the kids, when their mom comes and pick them up every so often, it's usually at 8 a.m. I didn't wake up in time to get the kids ready. And those of you that are divorced that share children, you know that that's not always a good thing to do. So the kids had their hair was all messed up. They weren't dressed, but anyway, I've been sleeping great. So the coffee does a great job. I'm awake all day long, and then allows me to have restful sleep. I have my CBD from today's CBDoil.com. And then, of course, I take all my other supplements from today's Viseo.com, a great, great company. Please visit the websites, pick out something. Both companies, Viseo and the Happy Coffee Company, they guarantee the product. If you don't like it, you send it back, get all your money back. All right. So I just learned Officer Rolf from Atlanta Police Department, who's been, has been charged with a crime that, if convicted, he could get the death penalty for doing his job. His mother-in-law, who works for I believe a title company or some type of mortgage company, she just got fired for nothing more than being the stepmother of Officer Rolf. Is that not crazy? Just saw it on the news. It just happened, I guess, today. She was fired, and they claim it's because of something she wrote on social media, and they're trying to say we support the differences between people, and so we fired her because of her social media comments. What did she say? I want to see what she said. You're trying to say that it's you fired her not because she is the mother-in-law of somebody who's not even been convicted. He actually got charged doing his job lawfully, and you fired the mother-in-law. That is so crazy. Really, really bizarre. Hey, April, nice to see you. Where have you been? Why haven't you been watching? You got to be kidding me. Hey, Paul Byer, nice to see you. A good friend of mine. We worked together at Anaheim Police Department. Great, great guy. We had a blast working there at Anaheim Police Department. And together we did our job. We were never racist. We were well trained. We did the job by the book, and we had fun doing it. And I think Paul was like me. Most of the suspects we arrested liked us. And I remember driving sometimes with guys that are handcuffed, in the back of my car, and whatever we had to do to arrest them. They're either dirty or my dog bit them or whatever. In many of the cases, if not most of the cases, the suspects at some point would say to me, "You know what? You're the nicest cop I've ever met." And I know Paul was the same way. Paul and I worked together in Sector 5, and probably a couple other sectors there in Anaheim, and Man, the laughs we used to have and the good times we used to have, it was one of the best times of my career. So let's talk about why this DA, this Paul, what's his name? Paul, I got to look at something really quick. Hold on. Whoops, I clicked on the wrong thing. What is his name? So sorry, Paul something. Paul Nitwit. I call everybody a nitwit because I want to call them something else and I'm trying to be nice. Where is it? I have it here. Paul Howard. Paul Howard. What a dope. I'm going to first tell you that I worked with hundreds of attorneys in the criminal space, criminal attorneys. I've worked with, not with, but sometimes alongside, sometimes that we've prosecuted crimes together with some of the best in the business and some of the worst. I've worked for some of the worst attorneys sometimes that hire me, and I look at them and go, really? Did you go to school? Really, you are not well trained. So and so I'm trying to figure out what's going on with this Paul guy, this DA. He's one of the dumbest people on the planet. I watched his press conference yesterday when he was talking about the 11 charges against this police officer. None of them are valid. None of them are valid based on anything that I've seen. Now, something else could come up, right? He could have some evidence that I don't have. It's possible, but I've seen a lot of the videos. I've watched a lot of articles and things that have been written, still pictures. I've looked at 8 different videos that I found that have either been supplied to me or that I found on the internet, which again, most videos involved in this case are probably on the internet. And the guy is a crackpot. I don't know what's going on. And he's obviously uneducated and a fraud because he has no clue. And so I wondered why is he so off base on this particular case? The one thing you have to also understand is that George Floyd, that criminal that was unfortunately killed by a really bad cop, is completely wiped off of the internet. Where did George Floyd go? Where did the guy that they brought up to be the savior of whatever world? He's completely been wiped off the pages of the news, and this has completely replaced it. So sorry, George, but you were unlawfully murdered by a bad police officer. I've acknowledged that. I've talked about it, and there's nothing that law enforcement or anybody else could do about it, but accept the fact that wow, that was really bad. But you got this case where a cop actually was doing his job and did it really, really well, along with his partner, at least on this call, his partner. And it has completely wiped away everything in regard to George Floyd. So sorry about that. But you got this idiot DA who is interested in putting a police officer to death for doing his job. It would be the equivalent of if you were a cashier. So if you're a cashier somewhere, it would be the equivalent of you have you ever miscounted? I know that I worked retail at Knott's Berry Farm, at a walk-in theater in La Mirada, California. Where else did I work? Oh, I worked Pioneer Chicken for 2 days. It quit because that was horrible. And a couple other places. It would be the equivalent of you miscounting. At the end, when you get your drawer out, and I don't know if they still do that, but I knew they used to take the drawer out. They count the pennies and the nickels and the quarters and the dimes, and the dollars and the $10 and the $5 and all that kind of stuff. I know I went out of order. And then you would be off. It was not unusual to be off. It just happens. You just miscount your change back or whatever. And then you're arrested because you miscounted for robbery. This is the identical thing. So you're doing your job. You've greeted people. You've taken their money. You've given them the product that they purchased. You've done all this stuff. But in the end of the day, you've miscounted. You've made an error. I'm not saying that even Rolf had made an error. I don't think he made an error. But it would be essentially the equivalent that in your job, you did something so minor that is just part of your job, and you were off by a penny, right? You miscounted in your entire 8-hour shift or 12-hour shift, whatever it is you work. And in their miscounting, then the DA charges you with robbery, so that you have to do 20 years in the pen because you miscounted your money. This is kind of the equivalent. All right. So you have a police officer that did his job very well, and that's what happened. Well, why is this happening? Let's look and maybe try to figure out what's happening. Let me get rid of this lower third really quick, and get that off of the screen. And And, there's a couple things here, and it's going to be hard for you to see. I understand, but this is the best I can do, unfortunately. So, what's interesting in this article by Red State is that it says that within the last couple hours, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Oh, sorry, wrong thing here. Shoot, where's that quote? There's a really good quote here. But the words that came out of DA Paul Howard's mouth in explaining the rationale behind the charges reveal him to be a duplicitous, money-grubbing, vote-hungry, and allegedly a thief and luscious. I don't know what that word is. I got to learn that one. A sexual harasser who recognizes Garrett Rolfe as the meal ticket by which he might hold on to his position come August. So why do they say that? Well, he's been a DA for 28 years. Can you imagine being in your job for 28 years and still being a moron? Can you imagine doing something? Right. And I talked about this all the time in court. When I'm on the stand, I get asked all the time, well, this officer has been a police officer, a canine for, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. And you're telling us that he can't do his job. Yeah, there are a few people that are doing a job for a very long time and they've never done it well. And they're actually worse now because they've gotten away with doing a lousy job for a very long time. And now, since they've never got caught, who cares? It's just like now I've been getting away with it for this long and I'm just going to continue doing a crappy job. And so here we are with Paul, I can't remember his name. That's really crazy. But you have this guy, Paul Howard, who's been doing it for 28 years. And today and yesterday, when he came up with all these charges and whatever he was thinking doing it, yes, he's been doing it for a very long time. And finally, he got caught. He got exposed. It's like Donald Trump coming in and exposing all the Democrats that have done nothing for decades, and now it's all being exposed. That's why they hate him so much. Don't buy into that he's the most horrible president in the world, that he's dangerous. All this. Those are words that have not proven out to be true. If he's the most dangerous, in 3 years, he would have proven to be the most dangerous, right? And the same thing with this guy. In 28 years, or whatever it's been that he's been in office, he's finally being proven to be a fraud. Because a woman by the name of Fannie Willis won 40% of the vote to Howard's 35%, getting 67,825 votes to his 55,740 votes. Since neither received 50%, they will face each other in a runoff election in August 11th. So he's coming up for re-election and being challenged probably for the very first time in 28 years. And he's going to lose this job that he gets paid $185,000 a year, and he is desperate. Not only that, he is also under criminal investigation by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the GBI, based on an investigative, oops, sorry about my microphone and the loud noise, investigative report concerning $250,000 that was sent by the city of Atlanta to Howard, supposedly for use in crime prevention programs, which is a problem that we have in many Democratic run cities, is that money is donated and yet it never finds its way to the program that it's meant for. As it turns out, about $175,000, maybe more, since records are incomplete, of that money ended up in DA Howard's paycheck in his bank account. So $175,000 of $250, maybe more, ended up in his paycheck. So the investigation only became public in early of May. So not only is he up for in a re-election campaign that he's going to lose, he's also under investigation. The allegations are that Howard did not disclose that he was the president of the nonprofit organization called People Partnering for Progress. Oh, stupid. However, Howard had sought supplement salary in 2014 based on his claim that 9 other DAs in Georgia receive higher compensation. That's because they're probably smart and you are a moron. That's probably why they didn't give you the raise, you dumbass. Let's see. Let's go down further here because there's something else. The arrangement, he had an arrangement, blah, blah, blah. But Howard is not only facing allegations that he is a thief. In the last 6 months, 2 different longtime female employees of the Fulton County DA's office have charged Howard with sexual harassment. One complaint alleges that the female employee was transferred and demoted and rejected, after rejecting Howard's sexual advances at an office retreat. She claims that after a period of suggestive comments and sexual innuendo, she knocked on a hotel room door, she knocked on a hotel room door she was told was the room belonging to Howard's female chief of staff, only to have Howard open the door wearing a long Oxford-style white dress shirt. What? And no pants. You got to be freaking kidding me. She could not tell if he was wearing any underwear. He invited her inside, but she turned around and called the chief of staff on her cell phone. It turned out that the chief of staff's room was across the hall, and the female employee reported what had just taken place. The chief of staff has declined to comment. The second woman who has filed a complaint was a longtime paralegal in his office. She claimed that she gave into sexual advances by Howard over a period of several years. She claims she was fired in June 2019 after ending their string of random sexual encounters. Now, with that background, let's turn to the clown show Howard orchestrated earlier today, which was actually yesterday. And so there is a background on this fraud. And I'm sorry you had to watch me read that whole thing. I meant to have it up on the screen, but I pulled it down. So he's a fraud. And so he's come up with these things. He did it without the GBI's, the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, awareness that he was going to go live yesterday and file these charges. And they have not even completed their investigation and charged this officer with 11 different counts in regard to this case. Meaning that he had to overcharge, hoping that just one of them might stick. He's hoping that he'll get one of them so he can look good for his reelection. Like, well, who's going to reelect this guy who's a complete moron, who's been proven to be a fraud? I don't know. Somebody might. But and so that is where this case lies. One of the most important things that I found, and I want to explain this very carefully because I want you to understand that a taser can be lethal, but it's also called less lethal. It is less lethal in the hands of an expert who's been trained, which is law enforcement officers. They get trained how to use a taser and where to shoot it. They get instruction. They also practice. And they also have an opportunity sometimes to use it more than once in the field. And some officers use it more than maybe 10 or 15 times in their career, some even more, depending on how busy your areas that you're working. It's an effective tool for getting control over somebody, but when used right, it can be less lethal. But you have to know people have died, and it is possible that somebody can die. And so in the hands of somebody that's not trained, and if they're shooting at your face, it can be lethal. It can also be lethal in the sense that if you shoot somebody with it and the person that you're shooting is armed or has weapons on them, that once you debilitate them, that now you as the aggressor have access to the weapons that they have on their person, and which can be any number of handguns or knives or whatever other tools they have on their body, on their person. What's the word I was looking for? And so there's two ways of looking at this. It's either it can be lethal in the wrong hands if it hits the wrong target, especially if it hits them in the face, and the thousands of watts that get triggered automatically into that body can basically paralyze somebody and cause death when it's used improperly. But what this nimwit said is that the taser is not lethal, and the officer should have known it's not lethal, and also that he already knew that it had already been used. Wrong. It did fire, because we see in the video that it got fired, and the darts did get sent out, and because you can later learn in an interview on scene on one of the cameras, the officer says, "I saw the darts come out, but I don't know if they hit me or not." Like, he was confused. I saw a flash and then something came out. I don't know if I got hit. And he's like looking at his body, trying to determine. So it wasn't clear to the officer who shot Rayland, whatever his name is. I already forgot. Mr. Brooks shot Mr. Brooks. He was not clear of everything, meaning that he didn't know. Right? He doesn't know what was happening. When he saw the flash, he didn't know what was happening. So it is unclear. The idea that the officer knew anything other than he was under assault and needed to protect himself is the only thing you need to know. Really, truly, the only thing you need to know. But I just want to go now to this other video here, because in this fiasco of a press conference that we saw yesterday, you saw this DA. I don't know how he stayed in his job for as long as he has. He's just never been found out as a fraud. You can hear him very clearly here say, hold on. I got to find the right one. Hold on. I got to make sure I hit the right one. Nope. Where is it? There it is. All right. I found it now. Stand by. So I just want to make sure I hit the right one, because I got a little bit of an order that I have to go through here. And hit this button here. Listen to what he says here on this particular video. Are you ready? Listen.
And charged with aggravated assault of Ms. Pilgrim. And this is for pointing a taser at Mrs. Pilgrim. And As many of you all know, under Georgia law, a taser is considered as a deadly weapon under Georgia law. And
so there, just 2 weeks just 2 weeks earlier, he says in a case that he has that it is a deadly weapon. All right. So again, the officer didn't need for it to necessarily be a deadly weapon in order to shoot Mr. Brooks. All he had to understand is he was under a threat of great bodily harm, based on the not only the policy of the police department, but also by criminal law and other cases out there involved with law enforcement and using lethal force. That all he had to do was believe that he was under great bodily harm, or the potential great bodily harm, or somebody else was under a potential threat of great bodily harm or death. It's or death. It's not and death or death. And because he thought he was under great bodily harm. But now you have a DA who just said yesterday that a taser is not lethal force. Only 2 weeks earlier was saying that it is lethal force. This is how dumb he is. Right? This is going to cause him problems in trying to convict this. And having him on in your prosecutorial, thank you, side of things is just not going to end well for this particular fraud that's handling this case. And let me see one more thing. I'm going to save this for the second part. So let me go ahead. And so I hope there's no doubt in your mind that this DA has some serious problems. He has the GBA who has not completed their investigation. They may come back. I don't know. Hopefully they will come back with a contrary belief that the officer did nothing wrong. He actually followed policy. He actually, fired because he thought he was under and believed truly in his heart, in his brain, that he was under attack by this suspect who was shooting his taser towards his face. Admitted by the DA in the press briefing yesterday that the suspect shot the taser over his head. But as a officer, as you're running towards him after you've been in a big fight with this guy and you see a muzzle flash, you can't tell whether he's shooting over your head or not. You have no idea where you're going. As a matter of fact, when they asked the officer, "Where did you get hit?" he looked down. Like, if he shot over his head and the officer was looking down, that means he had no idea where those rounds were going or the darts were going from the taser. And so that means the officer only saw that he was being shot at potentially by a taser or possibly a gun, and did not know, because now after the adrenaline kind of kicks down and he's had time to kind of now, get his wits about him, he now looks like, well, I don't even know if I got shot. I can tell you officers in a gunfight sometimes have been hit by gunfire. I had a canine handler that I trained in another department. I'm not going to give away the department, but he and his canine were in a gun battle with a violent suspect. The canine was shot and killed, protecting the handler. The dog got in the way of the gunshots and the bullets. And that the handler did not even think about looking to see if he was shot until well after everything had stopped. They found out the suspect was dead. They had to shoot the suspect inside the patrol, who was inside the patrol car of the police officer. The dog was down and dead. And it wasn't until well later that they said, are you hit? And he goes, I don't know. And didn't realize that he had potentially been hit by one of the gunshots. Because people, when you're in this, those of you that have never been into a life-threatening physical fight, and then a gunfight, your senses kind of get kind of wacky, and you don't feel pain. You lose a kind of sense of what had just happened. And even though you followed the routine, you followed the training, you followed the policy, you followed the laws of the state that you're working in the country. Even though you've done that, there's a moment there where you go, man, I can't remember exactly what happened because I was just operating based on my training and experience of what I've done in the past. And now I finally have to see whether I'm hurt or not. And so understand that is the right thing. But so in the video, if you have not watched the entire video, it's actually a pretty long video, that the officer, when asked, were you hit? He actually looks down. The DA says that the rounds went over the officer's head. How he knows that, I don't know. All right. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on there. And I hope I'm not being so confusing that you don't understand all the aspects. But this is all really important stuff because the officer obviously was under attack. Even though the suspect was running away, he turned and fired the taser. You can see the flash. All right. I want to address this thing about de-escalation because it keeps coming up too. That, I hear these people like the officer that de-escalated the situation. There was nothing to de-escalate. They had de-escalated from the very beginning of this contact. It is completely a model of de-escalation. And why these people, and even the people that are kind of on the side of the officer, are saying, well, you know, they could have done a better job of de-escalating the situation. I've watched the entire video. I've watched all the different angles. I've watched the body cams, the dash cams, everywhere. Where are you talking about that they did not do exactly what de-escalation calls for? De-escalation means that you're trying to keep the situation calm. Even again, the DA in his press report yesterday, in his press briefing, said it seemed jovial. Well, that's what you want in a de-escalated contact with somebody that may or may not be arrested, that the entire contact is so brought down to a level of almost relaxation, that this is a contact and everybody is okay with it. And we're asking questions. We're trying to come to a conclusion. We're trying to figure things out. I'm going to show you the video that I shared a few days ago, maybe 3 or 4 days ago, when I went through the entire incident. If you haven't seen that yet, go ahead and scroll down. It has something like 10,000 views on the different areas. As a matter of fact, if you're watching this, if you would please subscribe, that would do me a great benefit if you would do that. If you're getting anything out of these videos and these shows that I'm doing, especially on YouTube, I'm getting a lot more viewers on YouTube lately, which is fantastic. Thank you very much for all you watching on YouTube. And those of you that are watching on Twitter, I'm getting a lot of comments on Twitter, and I really do appreciate that. If you're watching on Facebook, if you would just comment, say you're watching, where you're watching from, who you are. If you have any questions, the comments are my way of sometimes getting paid in a little bit of a way. All right. Hey, Susan, nice to see you. Said he got a concussion. He got a concussion. Yes, he got punched in the face. Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, I would cover all the stuff that is happening in regard to this case, but there's so much all the time. It's taken about 4 or 5 shows to give you all the information. But this de-escalation, I want to kind of stay on track. This de-escalation that they're talking about is really an important point, because everybody keeps talking about it. It's like talking about the chokehold in regard to the George Floyd incident. That what the knee on the neck has nothing to do with chokeholds. And they've glommed onto this thing saying, well, we're going to get rid of chokeholds, thinking that would have changed the knee being on the guy's neck. No, the cop is a bad cop. He put a knee on the guy's neck, and that has nothing to do with chokeholds. And a chokehold is not the same thing as a carotid restraint. A carotid restraint is a beautiful tool that if we use it properly, it will actually keep us from having to shoot and kill people. In both cases, if it would have been used to calm people down and get them handcuffed and get them into a place where we can get them into a car, they would have saved anybody dying. In the other video that I showed yesterday, where the officers were shot, a carotid restraint would have worked perfectly there too in that particular fight. But a chokehold is, again, something different. So it's just the ridiculousness of these words and these things that mean nothing that we keep hearing about, because people just want to have these speaking points. Again, it shows the naivete. Did I use that right? Naivete of the people that are speaking. They're using words because they want to be on television pretending they know what they're talking about. De-escalation. This incident is a model of that. So let me go ahead and share the screen again, and I'm going to bring it down. It's going to be hard for you to see, and there's nothing really I can do about it, but I want to bring you some points in regard to de-escalation when it comes to law enforcement. And this is on Wikipedia. Not that Wikipedia is the training location for law enforcement or anything like that, but they actually had it all bulleted pointed here with one. And so de-escalation, I'm just going to read it here. De-escalation tactics predominantly seem, actually, let me make the screen bigger. Sorry. So that way, if some of you can see it, you can read along with me and see what I'm referring to. And that is de-escalation tactics predominantly seem to involve securing the scene at hand and attempting to calmly communicate with the citizen involved, which could be a suspect, a witness, or a victim. Bell describes several de-escalation practices to assist in potentially violent situations. And I want you to pay attention to these, because I'm going to play the video and you tell me if these officers didn't do a beautiful job in all these areas. The tactical pause entails stepping back, pausing to allow everyone involved a brief moment to think. All right. Keep that one in mind, that sometimes, you know what, you can feel maybe some tension is happening, or you're beginning to hit some nerves with the people you're talking to. And then you pause to keep a breath, to take a breath, so that it kind of maybe will bring things back to calm again. Number 2, the just be nice tactic, where the police officer speaks and gives commands in a friendly tone, regardless of how the citizen is conducting themselves. The person could be nice, the person could be mean, or it could be a smart ass. Whatever that is, you as an officer want to be conducting yourself in a very calm manner. Bell notes that there are occasions when the situation is not, in fact, what it appears to be, and the citizen is not committing a crime or violation, the just be nice tactic is particularly helpful in such cases. Number 3, be aware, understand, then react. Police need to avoid getting caught up in the moment, so should take a moment to be aware, assess, and understand what is going on around them before they react. Suggest the following basic de-escalation techniques: securing the scene, remove distractions, disruptive people from the area. Further, the officer should remain calm and speak slowly in short sentences to encourage communication. The responding officer should also present a genuine willingness to understand and help. Go on to outline and following specific de-escalation techniques. And then we have effective communication, active listening skills, such as reflecting statements like, I understand that makes you angry. How did that make you feel? That reminds me of marriage counseling. What a crock of crap that sometimes that is. All right, use a minimal encouragers, brief responses like saying, okay, and then let the person know the officer is listening. Introducing oneself, using I statements, restating statements the individual says, mirroring, reflecting, summarizing, paraphrasing, use of open-ended, closed-ended questions. Sorry, when I hover over those links. Also note behaviors that officers should avoid when attempting to de-escalate situation, not asking why questions as it makes the person defensive. They should not rush to a person, never speaking too loudly. They should keep their feelings from interfering. They shouldn't change a person if they are having delusions of hallucinations, but neither should they agree they are real. All right, so there you go. There's a little bit of a layout of what a de-escalation should be based on Wikipedia. Again, there was a lot of others. I looked at a bunch of others, but that actually, strangely enough, Wikipedia had the best examples of some of the things in regard to de-escalation. Again, this is brought up not only in the press conference. The attorney for the family brought up these officers should have been trained better in de-escalation. I had another person actually agreed that the officer should not have been charged with murder. But then the officer should have been better at de-escalating. You got people like Geraldo Rivera, which is a complete dim-wit moron. There's times where he said some things that I've agreed with him, but lately I've decided that he just needs to go away and get off television. I think he's going by way of Biden and has lost his complete mind, and he's getting dementia. And I think he's got a huge problem. He's watched the same video I've watched, and he came to completely different conclusions. That doesn't mean that I'm right, but I am. But he is completely wrong in this case. All right. So I'm going to go lastly. I know I have a lot of stuff I got going on here, but I want to now bring you the video in regard to, or the video that I created the other day that will now show you the first parts of the contact. We will get to the shooting part, so I want to make sure and also let you know that there will be some graphic stuff here. And let me go ahead and I'm going to do this really quick, and I want to bring it back down. And I want to put up this disclaimer for those of you that are not listening. Hold on, I got to find the right thing. Where is it? Here it is. Warning. All right, so warning: content on this show will be graphic, viewer discretion advised. So I want to make sure that I put that up because the next video at some point will show you the suspect being shot. All right, so let's bring this back up, and I'm going to make it the primary in the Dropbox. And I'm sorry, you may hear some echoing. Let me turn down the volume just a little bit on my end, and hopefully you won't, but I want to be able to talk through this just a little bit. All right, so here's the first contact. As they're approaching, he's asleep in the car. And remembering that the first contact is probably one of the most important things in how you start a contact with somebody.
Yo. What's up, my man? Hey. What's up, man? You good? You don't need a ambulance, thing like that? Are you just tired? All right, man. Just I'll move my car. Just pull up. Just pull somewhere and take it out. All right.
So far, that was good, right? It was good contact. He asked if he was okay, if he needed an ambulance. I want you also, I'm going to pause this for 1 second. I want you to know that that wasn't the only time he went to that car. He left the car. He went to his patrol car, waited for a second, and the suspect, Mr. Brooks, he did not He did not move the car. So we had to go back to the car, contact him again, and really had the same attitude. Again, I'm just shortening this up so you don't have to watch the whole thing. That he had to go back to the vehicle twice, the suspect vehicle twice, because he fell back asleep. He was so drunk, he fell back asleep after the initial contact with the officer. How many of you would have gone back to sleep after being woken up by a cop? Probably none of you. But when you're this intoxicated and out of it, you fall asleep. All right, here we go.
Yeah. How much did you drink tonight? Not much? How much is not much?
About a drink, about 12 today.
All right. Hey, do you have your license on you real quick?
Yeah.
All right. Just relax the car. What are you, you here for a visit or what's,
I'm visiting.
where are you visiting?
My mother's grave site.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
How long has she passed for?
It's been probably about a year and a half now, but
Okay, I'm sorry to hear
my
that.
birthday's just passed, and my girlfriend's birthday just passed. But I went to visit her, and
Yeah. All right.
we decided to eat Burger King tonight. And hey, this happened.
Right, I hear you.
I say, babe, what's going on?
Right. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk to this officer here for a minute, and then we'll be good to go. Okay.
Oh no problem.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Stay in the car. Stay. Right.
So far, right? When we talk about de-escalation, all the things that I read off of again, I'm granted, I just want to keep referring that it's Wikipedia, but really, I looked at a bunch of other places, and this was the most concise that would allow me to, be able to give you those things in regard to de-escalation. This starts off at the lowest level in regard to what they're talking about de-escalation, where you make this consensual contact, you knock on the door, you ask him if he's okay, right? You're showing that you care by asking him, are you okay? Do you need me to get you an ambulance? And he said, no, I'm okay. And says, you know what? How about we just move the vehicle over there and we're going to talk some more. He goes there and talks some more. They talk about his mom dying. He said, my mom just died. And he goes, oh, when that happened? And he goes, a year and a half ago, which isn't just happening. But he doesn't make fun of him. Didn't say, hey, dude, what are you an idiot? A year and a half ago isn't just happened, right? He didn't say that like I just said. He was actually way nicer than most people would have been. This cop really was de-escalating the situation. Again, when you're talking about de-escalation, this is a model of you could actually use this video for an example of how to not escalate a contact with something that potentially and you're investigating to be arrested for DUI, right? They haven't made the decision whether or not they're going to arrest him for DUI because they haven't done the sobriety test and the breathalyzer, but it's part of their investigation, and they're not going, at least this officer has not gone too far to escalate the situation, not at all. All right, and so what the DA said in his press briefing is not true. He's lying to you. He's lying that this incident was created, this potential fight that ended up happening was created by the officers. It was not. Right? Everybody was calm. As a matter of fact, when you hear somebody say, they should have de-escalated, there was no more better example of being de-escalated. All right, let's go back to the video to watch the second officer who just arrived on scene.
Right there. Hey, what's going on? So, found him passed out in the parking lot. He's sitting here.
So he was in the drive.
Yeah, he's on. Car's on. Took me like 2 minutes to wake him up. Kept knocking. Opened the door. Like, shook him. Woke up super groggy. Got pretty good smell of alcoholic beverage coming out of the car. Eyes are watery, glassy. Slurred his words. Wasn't sure where he was. And he's telling me he had one drink. He said earlier.
All right, I put a little pause in here. Again, this was for my show the other day, but because the attorney for the family said that these officers were looking just to crack
The
his
reason
head.
why we're here
And
is
so
because
there's
somebody
no
called
example of that
911
whatsoever.
Because you were asleep behind the wheel while you're in the drive-thru, right? You recall that?
I don't.
You don't recall that? You don't recall just minutes ago where you were passed out behind the wheel in the drive-thru? You don't recall that at all?
Absolutely, I don't.
Just complete blur.
I wasn't driving. Like I said, I just joined my girlfriend. She probably was sleeping, but like I said, babe, I want French fries.
So far as I'm aware, you're the
I
only
want you to look at the
person
officer's
that's
body
in this
language.
favor,
Does he look
Yeah.
fearful? Does he look aggressive?
Okay.
Does he look
So
like he's
how did
getting
your
ready
car
to
get from
crack this
here
guy's head
to
or
the
anything
drive-thru
like
lane?
that? No. Again,
I
de-escalation not only has to
So
do with
how
your
did he get
voice
there?
and the questions you're asking and what you're saying.
It never
It
did
also
get there.
has to do with the
I told
officer's
you I
body
was in
language.
her
None
car.
of what
We've got a
you're seeing
911
from this
call
officer appears that he's being
people
aggressive
reporting
in
the guy
any
passed out
way
behind the wheel
whatsoever.
in the line. This officer gets here and sees you. Everything's on camera. Sees you in the line.
Here in the line.
In the
Well,
line.
I wasn't in the line. Did I pull you over in the line?
I walked up. You had to wake up, man.
You didn't pull him
right
over.
here.
No, it was here. I had to wake you up.
Well, look,
Then you went back to sleep, and I had to wake you up again.
like I said, I'm sorry if y'all. I just got something to eat. I went to visit my mother's gravesite. I'm not causing any problems.
Well, we got to make sure that you're safe to operate a vehicle. Now, do you know where you are?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where
I'm
are
in
you?
Forest Park, Old Dixie Highway. I'm cool. Like I said, I could.
So you think that you're in Forest Park right now?
I'm on Old Dixie Highway, Clayton County.
Right. No, you're not.
Well, Forest Park, Georgia.
No.
Jonesboro, Georgia.
No. And try again.
I have to. I mean, like I said, I'm on Old Dixie Highway.
Nope.
I'm not on Old Dixie Highway.
Nope. Quite a ways away from it.
Huh? This is a bridge is here.
Nope. No bridge.
No, I'm saying Old Dixie Highway.
You're not near Old Dixie Highway.
I'm not.
You're not even in Clayton County.
Where am I?
You're in Atlanta.
Yeah. Old Dixie Highway.
Old Dixie Highway is not in Atlanta.
All right, I got to bring this back up again because this is the important points that I brought up in the other shows. So those of you that have been watching the last 3 or 4 shows, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go over this again, but you see where the problem is that everybody keeps bringing up, including the DA, including the attorney for the families, the attorneys for the family, is that they said they could have just simply let him go, right? They get all caught up in this conversation, but the conversation is one of calmness, of what they said, jovial at some points, and kind of joking around and like, dude, you don't even realize that you were parked in the drive-through, right? You don't even know where you're at. This is the problem with their defense or their prosecution for these officers, is that they're trying to claim that they could have simply just let this guy go. As a police officer, 21 years, training police officers all over the world, understanding the area of liability when it comes to being a police officer in releasing somebody that is drunk in such a condition that they don't know where they're at. They don't remember what happened just minutes ago. They don't really even realize they were just parked somewhere else, that they thought somebody else drove them there, that all of these things do not allow you as a police officer just to let him go. And these are all going to be things that are going to be brought up in the case. The fact that the DA doesn't know this is, again, what makes him a fraud, because he is so overlooked these facts and then overcharged because he's trying to make these officers to be horrible, nasty people. They were, again, not only protecting the citizens of Atlanta, that they were protecting this suspect who has been previously convicted of a bunch of horrible crimes and on parole. And they're trying to make this parolee, who was convicted of domestic violence, cruelty to children, kidnapping, right? All these other things. What they're trying to do is trying to now say that he's the super nice guy that is misunderstood and was jovial, and these mean cops shot him and kicked him and stood on his body, right? Do you see what he's doing there? That's how fraudulent this guy is, the DA, is that they're trying to turn something completely around to make it something else that it is not. You can see these cops have done everything. And again, this goes on for about 40 minutes. When you go to de-escalation, remember it talked about time, giving it some time, right? Don't go right in for the arrest, right? Because it may turn into a fight. This is take over 45. They're doing exactly as they've been trained in regard to de-escalation. They have not missed a bullet point in any of the areas that I had brought up. And there's probably more that they're hitting because they're doing such a really good job of de-escalating the situation with the suspect, at least up to this point. They have done everything possible to keep from escalating the situation with the suspect. And that is what you need to remember. And everything that we're seeing is right on point. All right? Right on point. And now they've gotten into a point now they're saying, wow, this guy. And you sit there as an officer because you earlier on, and even the DA brought this up too, is that the officer said early on, and I didn't include it on this video, where he says, you know what, I don't even want to deal with this guy right now. Like, drunks are such a pain in the ass to deal with. Like, if you can find them a cab, if you can get somebody to pick them up, if somebody like just randomly shows up and takes them off your hands, oh, thank God, somebody that's not drunk can take this drunk off your hands, because they're a pain in the ass, especially a drunk driver. Right? Especially drunk drivers, a lot of paperwork, a lot of things you have to do. You have to impound the vehicle. There's a whole bunch of stuff you got to do. And it's just a pain in the ass. If you're arresting somebody that's just for being drunk, it's always it's a pain. Like, I don't want to take this guy and so the DA is right that the officer said, I don't want to deal with this guy, not because they don't want to deal with him because he's black, like they're trying to insinuate, not because they don't want to deal with him because he's a human being. They're just saying, why does this guy have to be drunk? Because, I really I'd rather that I could just find him a way to go home. But now he's proven that he doesn't know where he's at. He doesn't know where he was just seconds ago. And now they can't, well, how can we let this guy go? We can't even put him into an Uber. We can't put him in somebody's vehicle, somebody's car, because we don't know. He's so drunk, he doesn't know even what he's doing. So they're doing him a favor by arresting him. I know that seems very strange, and people will probably write comments or message me or whatever, and you're like rolling your eyes, like, you're doing somebody a favor by arresting them. Yes, we did it all the time. I've done it all the time. Hey, dude, I'm going to arrest you for not even drunk driving, drunk in public. I'll arrest you for being drunk in public. Let's take you in. You'll get a good night's sleep. You'll get a ticket in the morning. You'll pay a fine, $300, $400, $500, whatever it is, and you have a little misdemeanor. It'll go away, not that big of a deal, but it's better than you dying. It's better than me letting you try to walk home and you get hit by a car. It's better than you letting you go in a very bad neighborhood and you get robbed and get mugged on your way home. Right? There's a lot of reasons why arresting is much better than letting a drunk who does not know where he's at. He doesn't even know what county he's in. All right, and so this is something that needs to be looked at. All right, sorry, I went on very long on that. Let me go back to the video really quick. We're going to continue this and see what happens next.
Atlanta.
It's Forest Park, Georgia, right?
Right. This isn't Forest Park. This is Atlanta.
Again, that's a little blank spot I put in there for the video that I did the other day. All right, the attorney said no sobriety test was given. Let's see what happens next.
Hopefully we'll get some change, and this will be the last time we have to have a press conference about a dead black man killed by the police for no reason. Thank you.
Another thing, that some of the witnesses said is they didn't do a sobriety test. There was no count to 100 or whatever it is and walk this line. They said that they were just talking. And it seemed to be a decent conversation. And then all of a sudden, one of the officers grabbed him and told him he's under arrest.
Tell me, I wasn't here, so can you tell me what happened before we got here?
I can just go home. I have my daughters there right now. My daughter's birthday was yesterday.
All right. Hold on, Miss Brooks. Will you take a preliminary breath test for me? It's yes or no.
I don't want to refuse anything.
It's yes or no. It's completely up to you.
Yes, I will.
Okay, just wait here while I grab it.
That's all.
I know, man.
You scared me a little bit because you were sleeping in there. So that's why I was making sure you're okay. And then that's.
I know. You just doing your job.
All right, just take a deep breath in. Put your mouth over the mouthpiece. Blow as hard as you can until I tell you to stop. Blah, 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 blah. Stop. Very good.
I just had a few drinks. That's it.
How many?
1.5. Like I said, I was into the second cup. I told her, babe, let's go because I'm hungry.
What kind of drinks did you have?
I'm not sure. It's something she ordered. She said top shelf or whatever.
Top shelf what?
I'm not sure. It was, like I said, it was her birthday and it was my daughter's birthday intent to, have a good time. And I said, babe, I'm hungry. Let's go.
I think you've had too much to drink to be dry.
So another thing the DA said is that he was not immediately told that he's going to be under arrest. In fact, he was. You just heard him say that I think you've had too much to drink, and he then moved in position to place him under arrest. Whatever the DA was talking about yesterday, that he was not told he's under arrest, is, again, a lie. So much of what the DA, and again, I use quotes, DA, he's I don't know what he's done for 28 years, but he doesn't know how to handle a case. But he's lied throughout. Every incident involved in this case that I saw yesterday during his press conference is a lie. Is that he said that these officers, just randomly kind of picked him up and shot him, basically, is what they're saying. And that now he's saying they did not, didn't notify him that he's being placed in arrest. He did. I think you've had too much to drink, and I'm gonna place you under arrest. That is all you need to say. I don't know what the DA is talking about. I don't know if he didn't watch the videos. It's just really bizarre at this point. It's just so strange that all this is happening. There's nothing up to this point where these officers didn't handle it perfectly in the way they should have. And in regard to de-escalation, the de-escalation was perfectly done. It was by the book and can be used, I think, as a training for de-escalation. It is the suspect who decided that he did not want to go to jail because he was under parole. What we've learned now, and I told you early on, I said there has to be another reason why he fought. He fought because that he was under parole. He had just been released early because of getting 7 years for domestic violence and cruelty to children and a number of other things, possession of stolen property and some other stuff that's on his rap sheet. I showed it to you yesterday. His rap sheet is right here. These are all the charges that are on there. And so what he didn't want to do is he didn't want to go back to prison and get additional years, right? So he was out. And he could have stayed out if he would have stayed out of trouble. But no, he's driving a car drunk and is so intoxicated he didn't know where he was, so intoxicated that he didn't know that when he was originally contacted, he was in the driveway of the drive-thru, so intoxicated he didn't remember moving the vehicle over to the parking spot where the police officer was talking to him, so intoxicated that he didn't pass the sobriety test, so intoxicated that he didn't pass the breathalyzer, and whoever is watching this, a liberal hack, you, the DA, you, the mayor of Atlanta, believe that the officers did something wrong. They're safeguarding your community, doing their job. This parolee who should not be drinking and driving, that, MAD is a great organization who is who's created this organization to keep drunk drivers off the road. Do you think they wanted this guy back on the road and to be let go? And to walk into an area where he didn't know where he was. He thought he was in another county, right? And so you're saying that the officers did something wrong. At this point, they've done nothing wrong. And to the rest of the case, they did nothing wrong. Let's go ahead and just roll the rest. I'm just going to go ahead and roll the rest for you. Why not? So you can see the rest. Remember, you're going to see somebody that is killed by law enforcement right here.
Put your hands behind your back, boy. Here, put your hands behind your back. Hey, stop fighting. Stop fighting. Stop fighting. Stop fighting.
Again, I'm showing to you two views because the camera on the body cam shows you a much more violent fight than the one that's from the dash cam. If they could have used a carotid restraint, that would have stopped everything right then and there. Why did he fight? Remember, 4 days before I found out he was a parolee, I told you that there had to be a reason why he would fight. Here comes the incident where he gets shot.
I think you agree.
Right here he points. I will play the video again, and it will show you in a frozen image that you can see the muzzle flash of the taser only 3 to 4 feet away from the officer's face, that the shot goes over his head, apparently. But you will see it get frozen right there. Do you see the muzzle flash? The muzzle flash just right between the tree and the roof of the red car. That yellow streak is the muzzle flash from the taser. And then that's what the officer responds to. The distance that happens is because of the reaction time from the officer. That I've explained on all of my shows previous to this one. and they claim that they didn't render first aid. I'm going to show you a video where the officer who shot him was the one telling him to breathe and
as we
administering
are just
first
getting
aid.
this case, the details are just getting more horrific because there were multiple witnesses out there. We talked to some witnesses today who said that the officers went and put on plastic gloves and picked up their shell casings after they killed him, before rendering aid. We counted 2 minutes and 16 seconds before they even checked his pulse. And people wonder why everyone's mad. Just watch the video as he lays there dying. The officers stand around. One kicks him and flips him over. And then the witnesses tell us that, which we can't see on camera, but they filmed it. They went and picked up the shell casings. I wonder why. So that all of you can't know how far away he was when they shot? So that you can't find their positions when they use that weapon?
Which is ridiculous because we have it on video of how far he was
Care
away when
more
he
about
fired the
covering their
taser.
tracks than providing aid. Aid that could have saved his life if allegedly he was taken to the hospital and died in surgery. But they didn't give that.
Well, let's see. Let's see in the video. There's the glove, the blue glove that you're going to see there where I circled it with a red circle. There's the gloves that they put on not to pick up the shell casings, but because when you're rendering aid to somebody who's bleeding because of COVID-19, AIDS, all the hepatitis, we always put gloves on to render aid.
Keep breathing. Mr. Brooks, keep breathing.
That was the officer telling him to keep breathing, They're giving him CPR. I know it's upside down, but it's the best video we got. And here's a video of the officer who shot him, giving him CPR.
This is not mine. This is his. Say, tell him CPR is in progress. CPR.
So what they were doing there, and what you heard him say, tell them we're giving CPR, it was tell the ambulance that they're busy giving him CPR. We give information to the ambulance and the paramedics that are arriving, what it is that's happening, and all a complete fraud from the DA saying things that are just completely not true and lying to you on camera. Nothing will happen to that DA. The only thing you can do is vote him out. The GBA, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, has not done their investigation, not completed their investigation. Hopefully they will find that the officer did nothing wrong, that he followed policy. The idea that he kicked him is what was said here on this video. And then the DA said yesterday, there's no video that I have seen that shows that he's kicking him. There's a still photograph of positioning of the way he's standing. To me, it looks like he's stepping over of something. It could be the body of Mr. Brooks. Who knows what it is? But I have not. I have searched. I've even asked officers that have some intel onto this kind of stuff, and they say that he didn't kick him. The officer says he didn't kick him. The backup officer says they didn't kick him. And so the only thing that I was explaining yesterday is that sometimes when you come up with your gun and you have your gun on somebody that you just shot, then one of the first things you do is you touch them to see if they're going to pop up and then fire more rounds at you. If you just shot somebody that shot at you, then what you want to make sure is that they're not playing dead. That happens, and it's happened before, and officers have died because they didn't check somebody first before they put the gun away and then go hands-on. If you're wondering why use your foot, because you have your hands on your gun, ready to shoot, aimed at center mass as you're approaching somebody on the ground. Have you ever watched anything on television? You've seen it 100 times, right? You approach, you have your gun pointed at center mass, and you're saying, show me your hands. You're giving them direction. Nothing's happening. They're laying face down, or however they're laying after they've been shot. Use your foot to touch them to see if they're going to roll over and grab your foot or grab your hand or whatever, or raise the gun and shoot you. And so it is not unusual not to kick them, but to push them to see if they're going to get up really fast and now point the gun at you, and now you can respond. That is not uncommon, and I would say that it's acceptable and encouraged and trained not to put your gun away and put it in a holster and then contact. Now you put your gun away. Now the person rolls over with a gun. Now it's going to be too late. You'll never get to your gun in time, pull it out, and then protect yourself. Never. Remember what I've said over the last couple of days. Our job is not to die. We always win. And that's why we always we can always go one step above whatever they're using to attack us. Remember, I've said that. If they use a fist, then we go to a stick. If they use a stick, then we go to a gun. If they go to a knife, then we go to a gun. If they go to a taser, then we go to a gun. That's just the way it's supposed to work, because law enforcement, police officers, in protecting themselves and you as citizens, we are supposed to win, right? We are not supposed to be at equal levels, because already they have the advantage. The suspect always has the advantage. They always know what gun they're going to go to, what knife they're going to go to, what weapon they're going to go to, when they're going to do it, and how they're going to do it. They always know that. We never know. And so we're already at the disadvantage. And now we have to respond with something bigger, something stronger, something more lethal if we think our life is in danger or your life is in danger. And so all this is literally just the craziest thing I've ever seen on the planet ever. And it's all because the DA is a fraud. He's under investigation. He's trying to get reelected. He's got dollar signs in his eyeballs. We've already know that because he stole money from an organization that was meant to help people that are underprivileged. He took money from people that were supposed to be helped by that money, and he put it into his own checking account. This is the kind of guy that's prosecuting officer and charging him with something that could give him the death penalty for doing his job and doing it well, and following policy and following state law and following the laws of the United States of America, protecting us while you are all sleeping probably. And now he's being charged with something that could give him the death penalty. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you come at me and tell me that I'm whatever. I don't know what to tell you. I've given my credentials in other shows. I've told you what it is that I do for a living. I've investigated these for 20 years. I've been a police officer 21 years. This is all ridiculous BS crap that should not be happening. This officer tonight is in jail for doing his job. Again, it is equivalent for a cashier at McDonald's miscounting and being off by a penny, being arrested for robbery. Is that the kind of world we live in? Somebody doing their job, doing it well? And this officer didn't even miss it by a penny. He was right on every step of the way, right on. The other officer may have misstepped in the sense that he had him drive from the part where he'd passed out to the parking spot. That wasn't the officer that shot him. That was his backup officer. If there's only one mistake in the entire thing, that's the penny that a cashier would have missed and now is convicted of robbery. That's the penny, was that the secondary officer had him drive from where he had passed out to the parking spot just across the way, 30, 40 feet away. That is the only thing that I said, you know what? That's the one thing they shouldn't have done, or he shouldn't have done. Not, again, this is not the primary officer. The primary officer did everything by the book. Everything by the book. And now he's being charged with a murder, felony, homicide that could give him the death penalty. Really? The most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Absolutely the most ridiculous thing. And I've seen a lot of ridiculous things, by the way. I see these angry faces coming up. I'm not sure if that's for me or for the other person. Don't know. All right. I'm so glad they're full coverage video on this. The DA needs voted out. And that lawyer, good grief. What an idiot. I know. You're right. What they're doing is they're setting all of us up for rioting, not just in Atlanta. When this officer is released, when this officer is given his job back, when this officer is shown to be completely within policy and state law and the laws of the United States of America, what they're doing is they're setting us up for a huge, you thought the riots that we just had for George Floyd was big? The riots we get when this officer is released and found not guilty, if it goes that far, we are all in trouble. Because they've set our world up for a flashpoint that is going to occur in every city, every state where Democrats rule. You know what the greatest thing to see if there's something great to be seen out of this, is that the Republican cities, you don't see this crap, right? You don't see the looting, the fires. You may see on a couple a little bit, but they put it down right away, right? They come in and they go, no, you're not doing this in our city, right? But you got all these Democrat-run cities where you got Chaz Chapia, whatever that country is that they put in there, Seattle. You have in Chicago and New York, completely out of control. I feel sorry for the Americans that live there. There's only a few Americans that live in these cities, unfortunately. If they had more Americans living in the cities, this would not happen, that are just being destroyed, being allowed to be destroyed by these children that have not been released and let out of their parents' home, that their parents are coddling and then keeping them in their house until they're 30 years old. These are the people that are coming out and now causing a bunch of grief. You know, what I love seeing are some of the videos when these when bikers or truckers, surround some of these Antifa pussies and get them surrounded, and then they go, oh, we're out of here, right? They lose all of their strength and all of their garb and their black clothing and their black hoodies, and they look like a bunch of wimps, right? That's my favorite videos. We've allowed Democrats to rule these really nasty cities, these shithole cities, and create welfare states. And until there's like an organization, it's definitely not Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is a fraud, is a Democratic organization run by a bunch of white people. Until there are some people that realize, you know what, we're black people and we live in these cities that Democrats have been in charge of for decades. Our schools are horrible. Our parks are overrun by drug dealers, and people get shot in our parks. We can't even go out and ride our bicycles. We can't get jobs, right? But these Democrats have been in charge. They keep telling us that we should be better off. That they keep giving us welfare, cards and stamps and all the other crap that they give us, and they keep blaming you Republicans. But when I see the people in the Republican cities, they're all doing really well. There's no looting over there. The crime statistics are way better, right? In Atlanta, they have an index of 2. Index of 2, 100 being safe. Atlanta is an index of 2. Now they have officers not showing up for work. How is that going to turn out? Right? You got Minneapolis, Minnesota, index of 4, right? This is the worst areas, and they're blaming cops or blaming Trump. It's all Trump's fault. Trump's only been president for 3.5 years. I know I've repeated myself, but it's just like the craziest thing, right? The fact that we've revealed the Democrats as a fraud, and that they have the most horrible policies, and they want us to vote for a guy who's half dead, right? This Biden character. Who says that if you don't vote for him, you're not black. And I see the Democrats that are on my page, they're calling anybody that's black that is a Republican, they're calling them Uncle Tom. They're calling them traitors to their race because they want a better life, right? They don't want to live like you guys in these horrible, nasty cities in Baltimore and New York and Chicago where you're shooting each other. They're Uncle Toms because they don't want to live in a shithole city like you. What the hell's going on in our world? This is the craziest thing. You got these DAs, this moron DA. This is the guy that you want protecting you, this DA and the mayor, right? These are the people you want to vote in and keep in power, right? Okay, good luck with that. But this is a fraud. And de-escalation, this concept of de-escalation is fantastic, but that's not what caused this to go awry. It was a parolee who didn't want to be arrested, who stole a taser, punched the cops in the face, ran, and then turned and used the taser against the officer who eventually shot him. That's what happens. That's what happens. When you punch a cop in the face, steal his taser, and shoot him with it, you get shot. That's exactly what happens. That's what should have happened. And the officer is absolutely correct in this case. All right, that is it. And I know that you've watched these for a while, that it's getting repetitive, but it's because I have to there's like these little tweaks and little things that are happening, and I want to make sure and come on, because I'm afraid, maybe they got something. No, they have nothing. To this day, they still have nothing. As a matter of fact, their case is getting weaker each time they talk. They should just stop talking. Every time they talk, they're showing their stupidity and their inability to actually run a case. They should not be talking. Oh, I didn't even get to the part that they said the other officer was going to testify against him. He's not going to testify against him. He goes, I never said that. What are they talking about? the backup officer on that call said, I'm not testifying against the other officer. I don't know where they got that idea. You're charging me with aggravated assault. And so And then to think that the primary officer, Rolf's mother-in-law, just got fired from her job. What a ridiculous world we're living in. How ridiculous. You know, they should be standing next to her. They should be supporting her and saying, hey, listen, you know, your son did the right thing. He was protecting us. He was trying to protect the suspect by taking him into custody so that he could sober up and that he would not go out there and kill somebody or get killed himself. He was doing the absolute right thing. They should have been standing beside her, and instead they fired her. Whatever business that is, everybody should be protesting. Everybody should be boycotting that particular company that fired Officer Rolf's mother-in-law. Protest that company. They did the wrong thing. They should be standing next to her. I don't know how many years of service she's given them, but to fire her for that is ridiculous. This is craziness. People are crazy. All right, that's it. I can't wait for Saturday. I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.